very good morning to you. I'm Howard Feldman, and this is the Synthesis podcast. We take a look at various areas of interest. We, of course, are a technology company, but we also look at broader interests, especially around South Africa, and we try to bring you as many subjects as we possibly can that we believe will influence and interest to you in terms of dialogue and also create a positive difference. This morning, joining us is an amazing group of people, the CEOs of Afrika Tikkun, Mark Labner and Elif Muhlenberg, as well as the Managing Director at Synthesis, Michael Shapiro, and Synthesis's General Manager, Sue Ann. So these are the people involved in the Afrika Tikkun and Synthesis relationship, a relationship that has been going on for many years indeed. We know that it started some time ago. The relationship has got a lot stronger. Before we talk about the Synthesis Afrika Tikkun relationship, let's start off with you, Mark. What is Afrika Tikkun for anybody who doesn't know?
Well, first of all, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much, Howard, for hosting the show. I'm going to do the formal how much we do appreciate and respect not only the support that we get from Synthesis, but I think just the nature of the relationship that we have with Synthesis, because it's not just, it's the kind of donor relationship actually that we love, because it's constantly exploring ways to, in fact, improve outcomes and output. Afrika Tikkun is an organization that primarily at its core focuses around child and youth development. A philosophy that says if you invest early enough in individuals, you're going to be able to produce a result at the end of, let's call it a developmental phase, where you've created somebody who is well suited for the job market opportunities that they face. Tikkun went a step further a few years ago to not only develop individuals, but also to try and find those job opportunities through further skilling, running learnerships, working with this whole YES initiative, and to work from almost the demand side of the equation, finding companies who had needs for employment and then fitting those needs with individuals that have been through our training program. That's what we call our cradle to career training initiative. So that's what really Afrika Tikkun is today. It's a child and youth development organization. It has a very important holistic element in that we recognize a child is growing up within a community, and we necessarily have to address a lot of the community needs at the same time. It's no good to isolate that child in an environment that is not in sync with what's going on around that child.
Michael Shapiro, Managing Director at Synthesis, when you took over, there was already an established relationship, but you made a very, very clear decision to go take this relationship a lot further and to become much more a supporter, much more involved in Afrika Tikkun. Why Afrika Tikkun?
Thanks, Howard, and good morning to everyone else. It is a privilege to be on the podcast with great people. So thank you for hosting us. Our relationship does go back 10 years. I think we're celebrating a decade long of partnership with Afrika Tikkun, and we're very proud to be associated with a wonderful organization. It started off, as most corporate social investment programs do, around contribution for a financial contribution to the organization, but quite quickly, not only did we see that Afrika Tikkun is a bona fide, worthy recipient of that financial contribution, but we saw we could participate in some really impactful initiatives with the group. And that not only included activities which have become quite popular on Mandela Day, but we ran many different activities at the center in Alexandria, magnificent facility in the heart of quite a sort of densely populated, quite hectic area. There's this little beacon, the Afrika Tikkun Center, and they've got an amazing creche. They've got a soccer center. They've got the soup kitchen for the elderly. I mean, we've had a couple of events there. One which stands out is we played soccer matches with the kids after school. It was Synthesis team members versus the Afrika Tikkun kids after their school day. They properly whipped us. It was quite embarrassing. Our software engineers weren't that capable. I think we had a few injuries even afterwards, but it was a heartwarming event. So that's just the kind of relationship. We saw that it wasn't just the giving, it was actually the receiving that we got. I think, after that event, or we went to the Accra branch another year. Suanne organized a wonderful event. We took some kids. They were panicked and we paired up. There was a sort of a 10-year-old kid with a person from Synthesis doing the Accra branch event, and they were kind of holding our hands just across the road.
Was they reassuring the Synthesis people?
I think they beat us at soccer, but definitely on the Accra branch. I think some of our older Synthesis team members, I think their fear of heights diminished as they got over 18, 19. We helped them through that event. That's my recollection anyway. So it's just this wonderful relationship, and it's really grown. As Synthesis as an organization has grown and our contributions have grown, so have the programs that we're running, and really, compliments to Afrika Tikkun and the leadership team under Mark and now Aleph, who is really pushing the boundaries of what can be done in South Africa, but also to Suanne, who's grabbed us with both hands and been able to provide such wonderful, as I said, mutual partnership, and that's how we view it. We view it as a partnership between Synthesis and Afrika Tikkun.
What Michael has said is just so important, and to the viewers who are watching this podcast. We can give money away, and our feeling of yeches, our feeling of joy, is relatively short-lived. We know we've done good, but we don't often necessarily know what the impact of that is all about. And we woke up years ago to realize it's not about the input alone, it's what is the outcome. And what we're just talking about here now is probably, if I can call it the greatest accomplishment that we could achieve, is that there are individuals who are living fortunate lives that are able to, in fact, experience individuals who are living such disadvantaged lives and come together as human beings to share this life experience. Those are the memories that are, not lost. That feeling of being on the high wire on Accra branch and holding a kid's hand. I promise you, the yeches, the joy that you get from that giving is irreplaceable. You can't get that from just simply writing out a check. Not that a check isn't important, but it's that giving with a sense of sharing. And that's hopefully what we would like to see, from all our donors, because that means we're walking the journey together. It's not necessarily we are being contracted to perform a set of tasks, which once have been done necessarily, because the type of work we do is never ending. And so our appeal, in fact, is to have relationships exactly like that which Suanne has embraced and sort of put arms around us, walked with us. It's inspirational for us, quite frankly, as much as it is impactful for the kids.
Well, which is quite interesting, because in most companies, GM stands for General Manager. I'm convinced at Synthesis, so Sue's title is GM, which is General Mom, and she makes sure that the entire company does embrace this and does embrace Mandela, and she does it as exactly for this reason, that it isn't just about contribution, it's about getting involved. Sue, maybe take us through, I don't know, one experience, this year's Mandela Day, which was of course completely different and had to be different to the year before.
Thank you, Howard. So from my side, I found that we had to think out of the box. But to take you back the 8 years that I've been involved with Afrika Tikkun, every year we have had to be out of the box. The year one, we went and played soccer. Some people felt comfortable, but we made Muriel's paintings against the wall, and everybody told me we're coders. Nobody can paint. And I used technology, and I took the tools to cast the picture against the wall, and suddenly everybody was painting, and they loved it. Now, this year, we just built on that initiative where we had to think out of the box. We still want to participate. People still want to know that Synthesis is there. We're helping. And what I found is the people I work with want to do something to make a difference, as was mentioned earlier. You don't just want to write a check and it's short-lived and it's finished. So this year we embraced the fact that people are stuck at home. They're not making money. Winter's coming. It is cold. They're hungry. And then we set forth 2 months ahead of schedule, and we got people to crochet. We got people to start knitting. We even had one of the males in the company that took out his mom's knitting machine, which is not completely electronic. He learned how to do that and knitted scarves for us. It was quite an experience. We had tech sessions on Friday afternoons where people could show off what they were doing, ask for advice. And I have to admit, this by far was the biggest Mandela Day participation we've had. And the contributions were just phenomenal. We could not believe it filled the office's reception there in Melrose Arch with all the photographs of what we could then share with the people. And then lovely pictures were returned because we all want to know where it goes. It's our first Mandela Day where we actually weren't there to see the people at the center, the children at the center. So the pictures were really heartwarming.
Amazing. Alif, you obviously, I think you've been CEO for about a year and a half. Is that right?
Yeah, since the 6th of July, I joined last year. I joined Afrika Tikkun. Yeah.
All right, and it must be quite interesting from your perspective because, as Mark was alluding to, there are a lot of different types of relationships, and you have to somehow figure out what it is that works for that particular maybe corporate relationship. Maybe some people do just want to know that they're supporting a good cause and that their money will be, go to the right recipient, and others like Synthesis want to know that they're involved and they want to contribute more than just financial. How do you gauge that? It must be quite sometimes quite a challenge.
I think how to answer your question is we ideally want to achieve a partnership with the corporates, and I think the relationship between Synthesis and Afrika Tikkun in that is almost like a best practice, isn't it? So there's a clear partnership relationship between the two organizations that is almost creates a synergy where the 1 + 1 = 3, and that's what we aim for. Obviously, some corporates are like you said interested in providing a check for either BE purposes or corporate social investment purposes, and that's fine. But ideally speaking, we try to build long-term relationships where employees generate a sense of purpose in their jobs by directly participating in projects of Afrika Tikkun. And that's been really, really cool to see when it comes to the Synthesis and Afrika Tikkun relationships. One of the first things I did when I started at Tikkun is I went to Alex with Mandela Day and saw Michael and the team painting the IT room there, which I believe they donated a number of computers to as well, which was really, really, really cool to see. And it was cool to see that anyone in the business was involved in it, actually did a decent job in painting, because I've seen corporates really ruin spaces on a Mandela Day, and the next day you have to go back and redo it. But the synthesis team, I think, as to what Suen was alluding to earlier, actually have some good painting skills there. So it was good to see how involved the staff is, and it was good to see how they interact with the kids and how they interact with our staff members, and that there is a genuine mutual respect between Synthesis and the beneficiaries and staff of Afrika Tikkun. So that's kind of what our best practice looks like.
Absolutely incredible. Mark, if I can just ask you this, the strain that we're seeing in South Africa, and it's not just COVID-19, it's also the result of the level of corruption, the fact that, and I don't want to get into a political discussion, because ultimately this is about solving and dealing with what the reality is on the ground. But the pressure on the system must be tremendous at the moment. How has Afrika Tikkun dealt with that over the last couple of months?
You know, it's a tough question to ask, because they're actually, you know, it's a very complex question, equally complex answers. There are two elements. One is an immediate response. You know, you're just reacting to the crisis. You know, picture a situation where for the last 20 odd years, we've had kids coming to our centers, and we've been able to enact this cradle to career development discipline at our centers. I mean, last year alone, we made over 1.8 million meals at our centers. But we could feed those individuals at our centers. Literally within the space of 10 days' notice, we were told that there was going to be a lockdown, the start of the COVID lockdown. And our immediate concern was, well, how are we going to feed? These kids had been coming to us each and every single day. Some 10,000 odd kids coming to our centers every day, looking to us for their daily food security. And bear in mind, those that were coming from homes where their families were ill-equipped to be able to feed them necessarily went home with food parcels. So you can understand the model that we had was, again, not just catering for the feeding needs and educational needs of kids coming to our centers. And now all of a sudden we had to very quickly think about how do we feed not only our own wards, but those kids were going back to families who themselves were in lockdown. So not good enough just to provide a meal for that one individual child. You've necessarily got to give thought to the whole family situation and circumstance. We came up with a model very quickly that said our centers have to realign themselves towards the crisis, which was immediately food, and then over the next couple of weeks, continuing on with their education. And I think we were really, really blessed in a number of ways. First, the organization quickly changed itself. We had teachers, early childhood development teachers, who suddenly became packers of food parcels. We had drivers who typically would be, you know, driving to macro and stuff to collect food for our centers, having to now put on hazmat suits and go into the township communities to deliver literally to people in their shacks who were in lockdown and not able, if you were elderly or infirmed. How are you going to get access to your food if we didn't necessarily deliver directly to your shacks? So we were also very blessed that we had a number of large corporates and private individual donors who supported us. And we raised a significant sum of COVID relief monies to be able to give effect to feeding about 70,000 families with a month's supply of food. So that was the immediate issue. We sort of interim phase then moved towards providing online skills training and education. So our enterprise development activity around learnerships and tutelage under the YES program necessarily continued by going digital. And equally at the same time, we did things like we put together homework assignments that when families came to fetch their food, could collect their projects, and then the next time they collected food again, they would return the results. And how, to your point though, is to now what's the future looking like? Because that's now where things get a little bit fuzzy and, frankly speaking, a little bit scary. As you can appreciate, we received all this funding, Solidarity Fund, private individual donations, and we've distributed the large bulk of the monies that we've received. We've obviously kept a little bit back in reserve to ensure that we can continue to feed kids responsibly over the next 6-8 months. But then what? And what about all those thousands that we were feeding as a result of the generosity from donors who don't necessarily have the wherewithal to continue to give now phase 2? So we had hoped that a lot of our initiatives would necessarily be embraced by and engaged with government and other NGOs. There is only one possible way out of this solution, out of this mess that we find ourselves in. We've got to call it as it is, because things are very unstructured. with dozens and dozens and dozens of goodwill initiatives all over the place, civil society playing its role. There's only one funder in the country, and that's government, that has the resources to make meaningful, impactful, and sustainable change around food security. And we've just got to collaborate. I think what we've proved, and I'm sorry I'm being a little bit long-winded, but I think what we've proved over this last couple of months is that it's organizations like Tikkun who are in the community, based in those communities, have been for many, many years, in our instance over 20 odd years, 25 odd years, that have the ability to deliver the last mile. It's critically important, that element. Government realized it, large corporates realized that, yes, they might have had the wherewithal to throw money at food solutions, but how are they going to get it to the people who really needed it? And how are they going to stop double dipping and trading in food, which is today, in fact, a much sought after commodity? You have to work with the local community structures that are currently in place and have been in place for a long, long time. And if we can get this consolidated effort right, we've got a really good chance at necessarily pulling this country together. And I think in a relatively short period of time, 3 to 5 years, we really could have a situation where you've got kids being developed for job market opportunities that are predefined, companies working with civil society in anticipation of that, and government in wrapping their arms with the resources that they've got to make that effectively a reality. People will eat, people at the same time will get educated, and people will find productive jobs, and our economy will really and truly, I believe, kickstart itself again.
So it's interesting. I'm going to make another suggestion and say that companies and groups, organizations that had the right culture before COVID-19 were very well suited to adapt very quickly to the challenges, the additional challenges that COVID-19 presented. And certainly my observation is everything that you're saying is that Afrika Tikkun was exactly that type of organization. I've witnessed this on the synthesis side as well, where although the company was already involved in the space, let's say, of technology and able to work from home, it could pivot very quickly because of that culture. Michael, can you just talk to that, because there's such an interesting synergy here.
Yeah, and it's I think that what Mark articulated, not only about the very well thought out and considered way in which to cooperate with government is going to be essential, but also the earlier points. Afrika Tikkun responded very quickly to change the way that distributions were made. Is the reason why we partner with them. We know that there's no waste, that there's no hesitation to with a generosity of spirit help people. The way in which the organization was set up, as Mark mentioned 25 years ago, Rabbi Harrison and Ann Harris as patrons, and the Labner family. So it just gives further credence to this association. And I think you're right. The culture of being agile, the culture of being able to adapt is what has, I think Charles Darwin said, has been the cause of the survival of the species. Not that I'm a Darwinist, but it is a fantastic quote. I do think that this resonates with us. We were very agile in terms of, and we have been for years, that in the software development industry, you have to remain abreast with technological developments, with the latest innovation. And we portray ourselves as a company that's a thought leader in innovation. And I think Afrika Tikkun is a thought leader in innovation in giving charity. And one of the other major programs that we've really enjoyed working with Afrika Tikkun is the Learnerships, because we know that the highest form of giving is to set someone up for life, that they don't have to be a beneficiary of any charity going forward. And we saw in the annual general meeting 3-4 weeks ago, the Afrika Tikkun annual general meeting, one of the beneficiaries is now contributing back. And the learnerships that are run, are set up exactly for that. And we're very proud to sponsor a number of learnerships. We have 25 learners running under the Afrika Tikkun services today. And what's also interesting, when we surveyed our team, and we survey our team quite a lot. We love to gather information, find out what people are thinking. We have a program that Howard runs called Pulse. We try and take the pulse of the organization. When we asked our team, what did they think about the contributions to Afrika Tikkun, our Mandela Day collections, visiting the sites, the various centers? A lot of them commented that they would like to give back in a more meaningful way with the skills that they have. So these are software engineers, they're computer science graduates. They felt that they wanted to be contributing more in that manner, rather than just arriving for the day. And yes, it's very rewarding, and it stays with us for a long time. So what Sue-Ann has done, which is incredible, she set up these virtual masterclasses where our teams provide some insight for work readiness. And they're transmitting that information, their learning, their experience to the learners. And now that it can be distributed digitally, so it's a great initiative. And we want to be contributing in that way with some of the unique skills we have, marrying those up with some of the needs and requirements that Afrika Tikkun has in this area.
See, that's what's so critically important, And again, forgive me if I repeat earlier, it's not just writing out a check that makes the difference. It's that engagement, and it's that participation. And Michael, I'm so thrilled to hear you talk about, the parallels that you see, for argument's sake, in leadership. If you're running an organization as you do, you can come across crises, as we all do. There isn't a single business in the world that doesn't, at some stage of its development, hit crises. And the ability to navigate through that crisis comes from leadership. And what you've done is you've created a culture within your organization that has allowed an individual, for example, like Sue-Ann, to sort of truly embrace a sense of purpose that goes beyond simply just making returns on, equity invested. And it's that I honestly do believe builds great companies. There are really a lot of books that have been written about, what creates sustainable businesses, great businesses. And invariably it always comes down to one key critical issue, a sense of purpose beyond necessarily yourself. That sense of being able to lead with a sense of sincerity, authenticity, conviction. And it's very difficult to, just commit to just making profits as your goal. To the extent that you're sharing the skills, the knowledge that you've got that's unique to your organization with others who are really thirsty for that, and that there's a platform, because that's really what Tikkun is. Tikkun is just a platform for enabling that, quite honestly, is exactly the model that necessarily paves the way, in my opinion, to the solutions that we're looking for in South Africa. I just wish more companies would do a deep dive into why it is that Synthesis operates the way that it does, and the benefits that necessarily accrue to it as a result of that kind of enlightened leadership.
Certainly, we're constantly looking into that. Sue, can you just talk to us about this learnership, because you're very involved in it, the graduations, give us your sense around it.
Thank you, Howard. So we started the Learnerships 4 years ago. It was exploring a new avenue, and it was very interesting starting with an NQF level 4. They learned how to work the Microsoft products, and then quickly we realized that they weren't getting any employable work where they felt the year's studies done actually gave them a purpose to drive forward. So since we've actually gone up to an NQF level 5, and there's a little bit of programming involved, and the learners are actually now more employable. And I think what we've started doing that they really enjoy, we check in at least once in 6 weeks, even if it's just a hello, how are you? The other areas where we also go in, we do work readiness with them as well. We do CV creation. We do mock interviews, which we are scheduled to do in 2 weeks' time. And there's a lot of involvement from our HR department and administrative staff to help them prepare, because Afrika Tikkun is helping them to be facilitated in their training, and they're growing the individuals, but we feel like we're just not closing the gap to get them into those positions. And that is where Synthesis have come together, and we as a group said, how can we prepare them even more? And yes, as you mentioned, we had a virtual graduation this year. Our graduation happened just as lockdown happened, and it was stunning. We could do a video for all of them, which they distributed to all their family, and that included their certificates. And it was a moment of pride for every learner. And I'm happy to say to date, we are aware of our previous 23 learners that have been employed, even during lockdown. And Afrika Tikkun is also helping them look for other work opportunities going forward. And we do keep in touch with all those learners. So currently we are in touch with approximately 48 learners, which includes 25 that we are running now, and very happy with our relationship with Afrika Tikkun Services, as well as the training program that they are on.
Just to interject, I'm sorry, but I think it is important to point out Howard's articulation and naming Sue's general mom certainly extends quite far, because she knows each and every one of the 25 learners. This check-in that she talks about is not a cursory check-in. She checks in on one, she knows them individually. She has a relationship with each of them, and like the previous 23 learners, for her it's a source of pride that they were absorbed and that they found gainful employment. So Sue does talk about the numbers and the program, but it's definitely a lot more than that for her. And, we're truly blessed to have someone like Sue part of the organization who has that care, far broader than just 9 to 5 work day requires. So it's appropriate for me to bring that in while we're talking on a personal level.
And in fact, I see Karabo, who's the Synthesis Relationship Manager, has joined us, and I see him nodding at when Michael's talking about Sue's involvement. Karabo, you can be honest, does she drive you completely mad?
No, honestly speaking, Sue is one of the stunning individuals that I work with at Synthesis. She never actually drives me crazy. I like her. She knows that. Any program, any initiative that she is about to embark on, she let me know, and we see how I can, of course, best support from her. I can best support her from my side, and we do that exceptionally well. And of course, Sue as an individual, she's just a phenomenal person. She's in the CSI space because she loves it, and she has all the characteristics that one needs to be in a CSI department. She's compassionate. She's passionate about what she does. So all of that makes her life very much easy. She doesn't even, I don't think even she sees this as a job. I don't think she even sees this as a burden. So that's why I'm actually nodding. Because if I know how she works, I know how Sue works.
Absolutely. Aleph, if I can bring you in here. What's in the future? What's the next? What does the next year hold for Afrika Tikkun?
Howard, it's a number of things. I think Mark alluded to it, is that there's a crisis, when it's still even a further developed crisis now, around youth unemployment. So that's one of our main focuses, not only by creating employment through the learnership initiatives, but also looking at self-employment. Is how can we ensure that people in townships can start their own businesses and generate their own income. Secondly, one of the things that we realize is due to this pandemic is that there's still a problem when it comes to food security in townships. So we are looking at very closely to providing solutions for that problem in the communities that we work in, through agriculture, through training people in agriculture, but also to aiming to start urban agricultural projects that can be started around someone's shack or even in someone's shack, with the purpose to at least ensure that people can grow their own food or have regular access to food. another thing that we, from a Tikkun perspective, are really excited about, and it kind of was brought about by this pandemic again, and we're trying to see silver linings here, is that we're trying to get all our programs online. So that is from a grade R program to taking that online, from all our child and youth development programs to our career development programs that we offer all through an online platform, and that people can almost log in through a My Afrika Tikkun kind of platform. And with you guys being IT specialists, we will first run it by you, of course, to get some professional input. But because we're not trying to proclaim IT specialists to be the IT specialist in the room. But we are really excited about it for a number of reasons. It will allow us to scale the cradle to career model significantly without having to build the massive centers that we, for example, have in Alex. But still have people, through partnerships, access our materials. And I think that's really, really exciting. And on that note, I think that's the last thing that is really on our hearts and on our strategy is to grow Afrika Tikkun through partnerships. With the food distribution from the Solidarity Fund, we worked with 112 other organizations to distribute 24,000 food parcels in 3 weeks. And that went really well. And what we realize is that we have a lot of skills that is required in the not-for-profit space, from a monitoring and evaluation point of view, to a marketing perspective, to a fundraising perspective, to an operations point of view. But if we train other not-for-profits in getting it to the end user, to the beneficiary, and we take care of those things that are around the implementation, like monitoring and evaluation, then we can work well with other organizations and we can significantly increase our impact. And that's what we're about. We want to make more impacts. We want to reach South Africa. We see that there's an incredible sense of urgency in the team to do so. And it excites us. It really does. And I think that's what's ahead of us in the next year or two.
Mark, if I can, because we are going to have to wrap it up in the next minute or so. Mark, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, what we try to do in planning for, our long-term sustainability and impact, we've got to constantly every year, we do this twice a year where we do an internal review. We have what we call performance stats, which we look at on a monthly basis. Are we meeting the performance outcomes that we're looking for? But on a twice yearly basis, we do an internal review to say, are we relevant? Quite honestly, is what we're doing necessarily what should be prioritized? There's so many things to do. So with Olive coming on board as the CEO of the development arm of the organization, as you can hear in 2 minutes, his sense of growing what we're doing within the communities that we're engaged in through these partnering relationships is a key theme that's coming about. We really are practicing what we're preaching, and it's damn difficult, I must be honest. Sounds easy to say we're going to go out and forge partnering relationships, but when you're dealing with people who themselves are committed to doing good, everybody's got their sense as to how it should be done, and it becomes quite difficult to actually consolidate efforts. So it's no mean task. At the same time, we're also resource shy in the township communities. As Olive talks about going onto digital platforms, online skills training, you've got to make the assumption, therefore, that people have got the tools, and they don't. They don't have the equipment, and they don't have the wherewithal to be able to go out and buy a laptop, for argument's sake, or a pad. So we've got to give thought to some of those solutions. On a more macro perspective, what we're trying to do, which is really what's freeing my time up now to be able to look at what can we do with government on a national level to take this cradle to career model and imbue that model in new communities that don't necessarily have that cradle to career game plan. So that's very, very much on our agenda at the moment. We've in fact signed a contract with the Department of Social Development to give effect to that national rollout. And what's exciting is that we have this opportunity to now make this the national protocol in terms of the approach to child and youth development. And then just finally, we're going to be continuously working towards convincing corporates to be a lot more like Synthesis, quite honestly. We are talking, no, jokes aside, we're talking to the Adrian Gores of the world to say, look at the synthesis model. Understand that that really is a clever way of investing, not giving charity, but investing in your future labor pool, investing in the South Africans that will create the South Africa that we want. Building more structures is not going to do it. Admonishing government's educational system is not going to do it. We've got to do it for ourselves. We've got enough resources in this country, from financial to internet, to truly be able to create the South Africa that we want. And it's through following models of people like Michael and Suanne, taking people like Karabo, who quite honestly can tell you his own story as to how he came off the streets of Alex to become now a very significant and material player, not just in Afrika Tikkun, but in society in general. When you understand those stories, you understand how parties played this collaborative role, you really, I think, must be left with a sense of optimism for the country at a time when it just seems to be so much gloom and doom. I'm concerned, but I honestly do believe that by pulling together, we have what it takes in this country to truly turn the ship around.
Yeah, and I would add as well that for the company itself, it's not even, the benefit is as much internal as it is external, certainly from my observations. Michael Shapiro, I leave you, I let you have the last word, your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It's really inspirational to hear those words and to know that there are organizations like Afrika Tikkun that are aspiring to make the difference and make the change. And let's be clear, Afrika Tikkun is on a daily basis saving lives, people being fed. It's truly remarkable. Not only are they doing that, it's a place where people are taught to have a career, where there's some hope. I cast my mind back to the visit to the Diepsloot Center, and we spent a lot of time with the kids. We painted some classrooms, obviously, we did that. But I spent a bit of time with one of the social workers and with Taina Labna after the session, and they were talking about how Diepsloot, some of the kids, the horrors that they had been through, at the age of 3, 4, 5 years old. Just sort of how scary it was, so another experience that, made a massive impact on our team. We did also some workshops there. This was actually the genesis of our sort of masterclass at the Diepsloot Center. And, I wish the organization all the success, all the blessings. We really, encourage Mark, Aleph, Karabo to push us along, to do the excellent work that they do, and encourage our listeners just to look into what Afrika Tikkun are doing, and for the corporates to also reach out, if it's Afrika Tikkun or another venture, but just to apply themselves, to really make this positive change. Mark's right. It's about purpose. It's about more than just a profit motive that drives organizations to be successful. And, thank everyone for allowing us the opportunity of this great partnership. I can just maybe end with a short story. And Karabo, I see he's got his hand up, he wants to speak. But it was just indicative. We were in our old Scott Street offices. It was about 2012 when we went through to the Alex Center, and we said, it's just over the hill. You just go up Paula Drive from Scott Street, you cross over Lubota, and there you're in Alexandra. It's 2 kilometers away from where we were. So we said, we're not going to hire a bus. Why would we have a bus to take? We'll drive our cars into Alex, to the Afrika Tikkun Center. Why not? So I had 5 people in my car, and we were busy driving through the heart of Alex, left turns, right turns. It's sort of narrow roads, quite confusing. And I get a call, an unknown number. It's my tracking company. They go, Michael, we picked up that you're in a hotspot area. Is everything okay? I said, absolutely. Everything's okay. It's more than okay. We're on our way to Afrika Tikkun Center. So this is, we just had many years of sort of really special experiences with the group. And I hand over to you, Karabo. I see you're chomping at the bit.
Absolutely. I must say, Mr. Shapiro, thank you so much, and to Howard as well. See, with synthesis, it's never like it never feels like a burden as a corporate from their side, because I don't know how you did this thing, but with synthesis, you have this, you are motivated as a staff. I don't know, maybe is Mr. Shapiro paying you guys more, to have this energy, what is happening? But you guys have this right mentality. They have this right culture of giving, you know what I'm saying? So with that, I just want to say thank you so much. I mean, we as the organization, of course, we might seem to be taking all the credit, but to be honest with you, all the support and all the resources that we're getting is through corporates like yourself and people like yourself who believe in us that we're going to make a difference into the communities that we've been entrusted, to take care of. So more than anything from my side, I just want to say, to Synthesis, the entire team, the employees, thank you so much. I mean, I must say, Howard, whenever we do the Mandela Day initiative, you'd see literally how the Synthesis employees are excited, carrying the box down, or whenever they're doing an office drive, be it winter warmers, be it beanies, the employees, they're excited, they're carrying food, they're going down upstairs and like, you have no idea. It's so nice, But I must say, over and above, thank you so much to the entire Synthesis, the entire management. We've really had a great a partnership over the years, and I thank you guys, and I thank you so much.
Thank you. Robert gave us a very warm wish when we saw him at our office, and I believe it holds true. He said, we will continue to be successful because we support Afrika Tikkun. And our success allows us to contribute more, and that drives us. We appreciate the wishes, Karabu. We hope it continues to be true and multiply by 1,000 in terms of that wish.
I must say also, I'm also surrounded by visionaries. I mean, Mr. Moenbeek, he's a visionary. Mr. Lapner is a visionary. So, and I like the fact that also Mr. Alif has actually taken me under his wing, to give me some bit of a mentorship, because of you always need a mentorship, you always need coaching in life as well. So I'm glad that actually Alif, the CEO, is also my mentor. Hopefully one of the good days, who knows? Guys, I might run Synthesis. No, I'm kidding. But I must say, thank you so much, over and above, thank you. And to Howard as well, thank you. I did attend your last session. That was, I think the session was hosted by Synthesis. It was around how to identify the fake news, the central intelligence, and all of that. I must say, thank you so much. That was quite of an insight as well. I could not make my remarks then because of understanding you were scheduled on time as well. I must say, thank you so much. And to Sue, Synthesis.
Yeah, in fact, we've got our next webinar, which is on Thursday, where we're looking at born out of adversity, and it's we're looking at stories where people have made good out of difficult situations. So thank you, and that's essentially what Afrika Tikkun is really there to do, and is to change the lives of people. Mark Labner, Karobo, Michael Shapiro, Sue Ann, and thank you everybody for taking the time to speak to us and in this very, very interesting discussion. I'm Howard Feldman. This has been the Synthesis podcast, and do stay tuned, and do make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you have access to all of these podcasts. Have a great one.